Hi, I'm John from Just Whiskey. If you like today's show, please give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Speaking of subscribers, we're getting close to the 500 subscriber mark. Thank you very much for coming on board. And remember, easy for me to say, and remember, it's just whiskey, folks. Wearing my new bonnet, which was given to me as a Valentine's Day present. This is a spring bonnet, even though it's not spring yet. We're supposed to be getting some snow tomorrow, so wishful thinking on my part. Anyway, today we are going to be talking about and reviewing the 2019 Balvenie 14-year-old Caribbean Cask finished. Finished. Comes in at 43% ABV. No mention of non-chill filtering. No mention of natural coloring. So we can assume that they both chill filter this and add coloring. I'm always suspicious when I see packaging that's very wordy. Pretty much anywhere that they could think of to put some words on the front and back, on the side. There's wording everywhere, and even how they word, specially selected Balvenie, finished in casks that previously held rum distilled in the Caribbean. They could have just shortened that up, as with most of the other things on here. But I am going to read something because I find it interesting, and I want to challenge them on the wording of this. And again, it's, in my opinion, it's slightly suspect and slightly misleading, maybe. Okay. The Balvenie distillery has been owned by the same independent family company for 5 generations. I'm sure that's true, and that's fine. Here's how they word the rest of it, which concerns me. Nowhere else will you find a distillery that still grows its own barley, comma, that still malts its own traditional floor maltings, comma, that still has coopers to tend the casks and a coopersmith to tend the stills, period. With all those commas, yeah, maybe they are the only one that does all of that, but there are other distilleries that do some of that. Speaking of malting floors, which they say they're the only Scottish. They don't even say Scottish. It just says nowhere else will you find a distillery that grows its own barley, that still malts its own traditional floor maltings, that still has coopers to tend the cask and a coopersmith to tend the stills. So that's not even, that could be Ireland, that could be India, that could be, so that's a bold, presumptuous statement if you ask me. But if you pick it apart a little bit, there are other distilleries that have their own malting floors, like Laphroaig, Bowmore, Kilchoman, Springbank, and Highland Park. As far as growing their own malts, I believe Kilchoman does grow a lot of their own barley, and I believe Daffmill does all or most of that. And, we're not even getting to Ireland, Dingle might do some of that. I'm just guessing. And maybe Waterford might do some of that. But anyway, but the way they word it, I don't know. It's a bit presumptuous, if you ask me. All right, let's talk about the whiskey. This retails for about $82 to $85 to $90. So between $83 and $90 is what you'll commonly find this for. Okay. On the nose, do get a little vanilla. I get a little brown sugar. A slight perfumey note, very slight. On the palate, it does have a nice mouthfeel. It's a pleasant mouthfeel. It does expand. It expands in your mouth, and there is flavor there. It's got a decent viscosity. A little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of that spice bite. It's smooth, and it's slightly syrupy sweet. So it's a slight sticky sweetness to it, but not overly so. It's very pleasant. It's very nice, but in my opinion, it's uninteresting. I've also had their double wood, and I felt the same way about that. I just felt it was, it's decent, it's okay, but nothing really stood out. And even, I know there's a lot of fans of, Week of Peat, the 14-year-old Week of Peat that they do. I wasn't overly impressed with that either, but the Week of Peat, at least I think it was like 48 point something percent ABV. It has a subtle complexity, but it's not an interesting dram to me. Even though it has some subtle complexities, I'll give it one thing. It's an easy sipper, and you don't have to really think about it. You could just sit down and enjoy it. I think it forces you to kind of relax and have some patience with it. Really let it breathe and open up. But, it's for them to put so much pride into, growing their own barley and having their own malting floors and their own cooperage, 5 generations. It would be nice if they didn't chill filter it and gave a more natural presentation. I know I'm beating it up, but it is decent. But I also look at this. Okay, this is a 14-year-old. And I can still buy Clynelish 14, which was one of my whiskeys of the year from last year. I can still find that for $45 a bottle. And Clynelish 14 makes no mention of chill filtration or coloring, but it is 46% ABV. And in my opinion, Clynelish 14 is not chill filtered. They might add some coloring. I don't know. You definitely get Scottish mist with Clynelish 14. Clynelish 14, for the sake of argument, yes, a lot of places it's around $60 a bottle, $65, and even closer to $70. But if you look around, you can find it for a good price, and I can still. So for almost 2 bottles of Clynelish 14, which blows this out of the water. That's the way I kind of look at it. I think you could spend your money more wisely with a more complex, more interesting Scotch, in my opinion. Okay, the finish. The finish is actually medium plus to medium long minus, if that makes any sense. It's got a decent finish, and it is pleasant. How am I going to score this? I'm going to give this an 82 to an 83. And That's my rating, and that's how. It's not something that it's really impressive that I really go to. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, like it, and subscribe, and consider becoming a Patreon. And remember, no matter how much it costs or how good it is, it's just whiskey, folks. So hats off to you all, and take care.